Hello, Americans, people of humanity. Our countries had collusions also, all groupings have collusions with a breaching method, a hyperforeign. So I refer to it as a hyperforeign. There's a Judge Napolitano with a Judging Freedom website, and he's more capable than a lot of judges, but judges A through Z, police forms A through Z, lawyers A through Z, judges, prosecutors A through Z, they have failed to be able to speak for natural law because they have failed to be able to speak for nature's identity. Nature's identity is an identity of hyperrelativity that shows us that there are five distinct identities of order and of time that are simultaneously positive, like with our convictions, for example, like with our theory, let alone with our convictions. In other words, countries A through Z, individually grouped and together, they are shock and awe with regards to the theories and the tactical delusions slash hypertactical delusions of psychiatry. For example, experts on logic and reason. They have other, in other words, there is the value of truth, sequence truth, and its relativity to questions. Because questions, since founding, we know they could be and were and are. They still are because we use the hyper evidential. Asked for the breaching method, asked dishonestly. See the relativity of crimes and people supposed to be told to counter crimes. There are still collusions with predicate acts with facts, much worse than the crimes they're putting the kids and adults in jail for at all locations slash S, let alone those most sickly, distinctly and positioned upon, like New York City. See the Campus Marcius, the name of a park in Detroit, and look at all that. Look at descriptions of the Detroit nowadays. After all those years of successful industry, we have homes that were designed for torture, extortion, and slavery. Only the extent of it is debatable. The only reason that it appears to be debatable and that's still gotten away with is because things that are not debatable are forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to be respected. At each age of fact, treatment nature, tactical terrier, from how nature teaches us to use words and values like respect. So there's mass identity theft, fraud, and slander against Americans A through Z. And we're in how nature's identity has black people's whites of eyes showing us we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. For its identity relationship to itself and the value of that. Other species volumes. We have other species that also manifest with two eyes. Quality aspects in nature that are distinct from our own, but they are also non-distinct. And that is also how we can discern the identity of hyperrelativity, the identity of nature, natural law. See, but you guys want to, just because some guy, some Thomas Aquinas wrote about natural law, or not, even use the phrase. They make subject treatments to measure and maintain. And you guys make it like it's personal. In other words, New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts have family members that have been stacking fake things in their courts since founding, and with people out of the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices. It has something to do with their roles with World Trade Center predicate acts. So judging freedom with Judge Napolitano, all investigations, all investigators and their campuses, all campuses are used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. And that is observable where and how we have these natural answers. And they have theories and delusions and lies and criminal foreign influences in the way. of our short words and of their protraction. So Judge Napolitano is involved with the crime method, and he's not. In other words, I'm having. This is the only good judge I can have a chance to get a freedom here from. Not just me, everyone. You think fake scientists spoke for New York City? Fake scientists speak. The suburbs in America and in Russia, they're manifest the way they are because there were countries individually grouped together, and then private industries that had the people individually grouped and all together, forced to entertain laws that if you were found out to be speaking about, I learned in notes at Central Connecticut, if you were found out to be speaking about building homes outside of those internationally monitored conversations about it, they would hurt you, your family, everyone around you. It's a sick torture, extortion, slavery method against everyone non-distinctly. That's what forced roles with slavery and left it entrenched. And that's what forced everyone to blame other things, others themselves, rather than what our founders told us to blame it on. The breaching method, for example. Nature shows us that our founders' souls and voices, what they really wanted and needed, was for us to explain how there's a breaching method at countries A through Z that was already entrenched. So Wethersfield police have wire and mail crime methods with the FBI and with state police. A Whiting Forensics has roles with names before and after the World Trade Center attack. With their after the World Trade Center attack, they have predicate acts. Every year since the World Trade Center attack, intercities has been manifest people planting evidences, federal evidences, crime acts and methods. In other words. And then we have to use their names, and people jump in our conversations dishonestly as the family members of the intelligence community too, and as themselves, fake, foreign and domestic too. Foreign and domestic cyber police. They have the leadership of Facebook, some ways completely on their own, involved with predicate acts, changing what's recorded online, and putting extremism in there. The words extremism and radical are used with criminal foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. So in other words, that it's relativity to readings of statutes that give the benefit, all kinds of criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents that the lawyers of the FBI and the agencies and that the lawyers of Wethersfield Police, Rocky Hill Police, other departments have. And as their roles with wire crimes, with the names on my street, with a cousin named Phil Colo. There was a Ray Colo who has a cousin named Phil Colo, and a Ray Colo and his father, and a Mike Kerr and his father, and a DeMorrow family and their families have roles with Wethersfield Police when I was a kid, with wire crimes and mail crimes. They have roles with that times collusions with uses of that with their roles with home break-ins and the names involved. Increasingly, people when I was in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, they had roles with federal evidences crimes and other, child abuse, identity theft, fraud, slanders, too. At the same time, in that form of that, behind people's backs is the right thing. As people roles with body dumping spots. Distinctly from the people that when I was in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. When I was in 1st grade, I had no problems with anyone. There were people spying on me. There were people spying. They use truths, and they make other people make statements as confessions on a mass scale. The branches of government already recorded themselves lying what they think about their own motivations and emotions, and or about others. So we could use their very delusions for evidences too. But you have to follow mandated law for that. On off the state of Connecticut corrections offices, there was a Ray Colo and a Joe DeMar who have roles with someone named Dave with the military, who was one of the ones implanting a whole bunch of people tied to them. Also people with the name Della Fera. And girlfriends, I don't even know their girlfriends' names. One of them is Spada, and that's also a probate judge. There's a Delafero has said they have a probate judge in their family. I had to ask him over the phone years later. And they had me in a fake conversation in the phone with Weathersfield Pizza. Weathersfield Pizza has wire crimes with Weathersfield police and with the state judicial branch offices. Fake conversations with me over the phone too. And fake motivations for it. So Steven Stocco has roles with that, with teachers he had. And his roles with the people on my street with wire crimes with Weathersfield police, falsified police reports, and child abusers, various natures of federal crimes, federal evidences crimes. And you know, that's per them. You guys are the one planting evidence, and there's a detective Dylan. People make confessions for him, then he non-verbally demonstrates it true. A detective Dylan, Kevin Dylan, and he's got other members of his family involved that I never met. I never had a conversation with him either. Yeah, other people make sure. Years ago, the Weathersfield Community Center has something to do with the Domain family, Adam Domain and Mike Domain and their parents and their neighbors, including a Mazzucato family. There's a Mazzucato bakery and a modern pastry that has roles with the Maiano family. And with the police chief, Cintron is married into the Mazzucato family. He has a Jessica Cintron involved with the Jonathan Maiano. And with this Reno Mazzucato, I never had I barely ever had words with him. In other words, something along Route 3, Route 175, and people that live near the houses of them planted evidences on my campuses, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And that keeps coming up. They have with the people involved intercities, predicate, they have roles with murders and confessions and things like that. They brought up intercities. And this also delayed because the same people have ties. Then they brought all of a sudden there are people on my front. There's a field across the street from my house that the intelligence community and foreign have been using to hide lipoaggressions. I didn't even respond to a Robert Rodriguez who brought up the principal child abuser's campus to me, and they forced that by attaching me by hiding what I caught them doing with the campus. And by faking and changing what I said. And I still haven't had a response. And they lied to the parents of the kids about that. This is how they make the parents self-value roles without realizing with predicate acts against your kids. This is how, without realizing, people stay so stupid, even though nature shows there are 5 identities of order that can be simultaneously true or not. And in other words, you can have positives that are like a truth used for a lie, used as a criminal insidiousness nature of a positive. You could have a truth not being used for a lie, but it's being used by a lie for someone else. That could also be sensed when you have questions. Nature shows us the relativity of questions, has relativity aware how it answers our question. See, but we have this replaced by physical delusions, criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature with the types of experts, and the legitimacy of that. Meanwhile, they still have these brackets. So Fox Connecticut News has the Facebook page of New Britain Superior Court and involved with Judge Napolitano's Facebook page in their own, forcing, tricking, hurting, and persuading, collusion /S at all crime scenes and campuses. The one class I had or the 2 classes, it might have been 3. I never had with a Mike Domain. Never had conversation trying to make fake exceptions. It has something to do with his religion too. There's a Miss Riley who said she was Jewish and repeated to me about how she knew something about a neighbor of mine apparently is Jewish, that I never even was in the presence of. In other words, unfortunately, in other words, but in other words, fortunately too, because everyone wants to speak through others. They're already painted into corners. The FBI, in other words, the fire departments are also with Russians. Other countries in the news have collusions with each other. Has something to do with the roles with the fire departments and the medical campuses, with the courts, judges, and prosecutors speaking fake things in the records while tactically delusions raw. Now there's sequence shifting too. There Harvard Hospital recorded confessed demonstrated confirmed there's a Judge Killian, who's one of the ones involved with his family member too. I recorded this recorded other ways. His family members live around him. I don't know who they are even. A Judge Killian. He spoke fake things in records, and with his Leahy family, a Doctor's Leahy. I never even had a word of conversation with them in my life. One of them put a database. I put a clipboard on and made a face like that, and I didn't respond to him. I didn't, even though I recognized who he was. I barely ever saw him. People made confessions tied to him, unless I remember that name. People involved with the corner of the street on my street, named Ray Cololo, Tim O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien, and Rick Ciampaglione. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have federal evidence crimes with judges and prosecutors and their family members and leaders of the kids' that they have roles with abuses of. There's a Kevin Harris and his mother involved with drugs and medicines crimes at campuses I went to, identity thefts and fraud, slanders, fake ties and fake gangster ties. There are proofs that they took a picture of me walking out of a school, and he walked out. I don't know, before or after. I don't know. I didn't believe it was after me. We're like right around the same time. And then we went to his house for a minute. I had no conversation with him. I was polite, didn't use the bathroom or anything like that. And we left. That was make a fake exception of knowing me. Same thing happened with a Lombardo family. These are all families with the medical community, a whole bunch of people with the medical community involved with judges and prosecutors, doctors, personally and professionally, with the same house/S that brought up the principal child offender. So please follow mandated law for them and for Judge Napolitano. Let's get him on paper, one name in sequence. Let's go. I want a response for this Kevin Dillon. And with 3 times Harvard Hospital has federal predicate acts with them, putting fake things in databases. I still haven't had one person to talk to about why I had to force people to call the police. They don't even know. They know it was tied to, in other words, they know he non-verbally confirmed things to me about his roles with Harvard Hospital, also predicate acts against my family members. In other words, they don't even know about it. And I'm trying to keep it because we can't have a conversation while they're attaching me to fake conversations with my family too. They've been doing this since I was a kid. They've been doing this to other people too. The news also pretended through the news that I had ties to a doctor when I was a kid that weren't at all. Never had a tie to a doctor. And I was an adult too. The same ones involved with it, with the judges and prosecutors. There's a Judge Smith. There's a Jamie Smith and a David Smith and their mother. I don't know their mother's name, who had roles with some Afghan leaders and kids at the Wethersfield town offices, with the judges and prosecutors involved also with Stop and Shop. And when it was it was a food mart. When it was a food mart, it also had, in other words, the managers there have something to do with the intelligence community and the different employees. And when it was a Caldor before it was a Walmart, a whole bunch of people tied to the name DeMoro have roles with the shopping centers, planting evidences, and Cololo. I never seen Joe DeMoro at that shopping center. I never seen John Maiano at that shopping center, not far from my house. I never seen the Kerrs there. John DeMoro I never saw there. Either John DeMoro wanted me to go to the side of Caldor, which is a Walmart now on Town Line Drive. Something to do with that spot. Has roles with a whole bunch of judges and prosecutors with drugs and medicines crimes on off the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices. Wethersfield Pizza has identity theft, frauds, wire crimes of Weathersfield Pizza, and the schools. They're planting evidence of fake ties and fake natures of ties to people. There's a Steven Stockel with the intelligence community who has roles with street names on my street who, according to confess, demonstrate, confirm collusions with him through the people I want for forcing people to speak through others. So, in other words, all kinds of state police forms interstates involved with Eric Jensen, a Mike Roberts, and with a Ray Colo, and their roles with falsified police reports with judges and prosecutors and their family members, interstate, and state police families, and a Ray Reynolds. Ray Reynolds, too, is one of the ones with the Kevin Harris's mother involved with putting fake things at every campus I went to, people, and with the names next to them. I went to a campus for 1 year and then it closed in Weathersfield for a kindergarten. There's a Harris woman involved with that, and with her kids, and with this Leahy family, and with the judges and prosecutors personally and professionally involved with all kinds of natures of organized crime. Then they have to hide live progressions. So they have torture, they have creating fake medical conditions in people and putting fake things in databases since pounding drugs. So we have to handle the delusions of the experts too. In other words, fix the World Trade Center. You know, you don't have one name who can follow mandated law for Weathersfield Police. Get them on paper, one name in sequence who disbelieves. And get them off the public access television with the Russians too. Or open this up because we're going to watch it, look at it now. There's people with the name Peruta who also have roles with the corners of the streets next to the schools with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with the lawyers of the Weathersfield Police and the FBI, personally and professionally, criminally involved. All kinds of readings of law and nature that are sick. So there are those 5 parts of nature's identity. The value of truth before the smallest finite detail of the Republic, for example. There was a human fact human nature breaching method that had been sustained against Native Americans. Also 1/3 of our founders as Native Americans. And they were fighting with each other already because they had to counter possession of fact human nature, quality aspects in nature. Directly, but also indirectly. And so while they were keeping those nature's demonstration of those direct roles with preventing free speech and making everyone pretend they have free speech anyway, while simultaneously defending definitions of free speech abridged. You have name switching courts so they can stick fake things in databases to hide live progressions for how they've been doing that. You have the network and research campuses are involved criminally foreign influence. There are people at Quinnipiac University who planted evidences on there, but also with the judges and prosecutors and foreign and domestic from off the campuses. Then when people mention such, they can't go back. And such is used instead to measure and maintain collusion/S with itself. So America has not had one liberated identity. This is observable when they bring up black or white. See, nature communicates with us having black pupils and whites of eyes at the same time. We have the same color eyes and different color eyes. And there are exceptions. Nature shows us. It uses exceptions, the exception nature the way we know. But hyper additionally, as itself, the way no one could be. Itself, except for itself, nature's identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that are equally increasing because the rest of its complete identity is not present. But wherever we have the slightest piece of the identity of the hyper simultaneous, its complete identity of relationship to itself, equal to that. And the only increasing value of that, Those three are equally increasing. This is where and how we could discern the identity of hyperrelativity. Hyper invisible, but still discernible. It is why its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that is why and is how the mind has to appreciate more than one word for the word verb. We need a verb. We need to discern it as a participle nature too. A present participle or a past participle. Because, and this is with the active. See, but English was revealed before the sciences became criminally foreign influence in semi-ancient times. That referred to as ancient times now through our campuses because they are abridged. Because nature shows us, again, how to answer questions and how it communicates. By in other words, its identity, it's how we could answer these questions. So there's the value of truth as itself, as it actually was, and with relativity to questions. Its identity relationship to itself, and the value of that is why we ask questions. And the answers, it brings us answers, revelation. No. It is more probable and is more practical per science that both the Old Testament and the Quran were written with consciousness that the sciences had already become criminally foreign influence. And for example, the republic for which we stand, it had been functional with exceptions in exception nature to itself. There are there are proofs that the ancients have been shown by nature itself. What they couldn't believe that we could forget about what we could do with unity / hyperunity, and how to check to make sure our unity is not being used as a criminal insidiousness, nature positive, therefore negative. In other words, truths are used for lies, for example. In other words, so the state of Connecticut corrections offices, under the guise of trying to correct people and make people repent or whatever they're trying to do, they've been collusion act / asset crime scenes, and with predicate acts with facts methods, way worse, as crimes, as people speaking about crimes that need to hide that, and they were shown needs to hide that. So Hartford Hospital has a whole bunch of people on Church Street in Old Weathersfield, also involved planting evidences and fake conversations. There's a Dr. Gilmore. I don't even know what he looks like. He's involved with the news and people on and off the campuses, including Hartford Hospital's campus, who has roles with a Christina Sioka I barely spoke with, and she wouldn't speak about anything real. She wanted me to take some stupid tests they give people. Those tests that they give, like with what does this picture look like? Those are used criminally foreign influenced. And these are people who are supposed to be experts on memory. This is relative to how I know people's names, and they know mine, but we don't know each other. And people that, in other words, people that know my name, I don't even know their name. Because at corners of buildings, there are people planting fake ties, fake natures, ties to people. Investigators are recorded in their campuses how used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusion / hyper criminally foreign influence. This is at countries A through Z. This is why we have problems with wars. All exceptions in exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other, they're really in demonstration of the same thing / s. So there's a Heather Hansen from another part of town on Church Street in Old Weathersfield who sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. There's also people that on other corners that live on corners of the street beside her house on a corner on that street. I never had a personal conversation with a Bruce Hanson or with his wife, but they have roles with other names on the street, and with the names of the wire crimes and mail crimes, home break-ins. Heather Hanson made a confession, tied her roles with home break-ins, breaking the window of my house, and other home break-ins in the area associated with Joe DeMoro, who is one of the ones with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants. Heather Hanson also recorded with the Joe DeMoro, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. The family members of the co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, various natures of federal criminals before they got caught, and their kids have been planting evidences on each of the campuses I went to, roles, and with houses next to it. And the DeMoro family has roles with next to that campus. That is, I believe it's an elderly home now, and their neighbors are also involved with foreign and domestic military. Like there's a Robert Schedule. I never had a personal verbal conversation with in my life. Never, in other words, never. He has something to do with the Mike Domain. He was standing there. I was briefly at his house for a moment. They tried to make a fake exception with Jonathan Maiano. See, where the foreign and domestic are observably manifest with acts and collusions together. They're making fake exceptions, and they were before that. They're used to make fake exceptions. See, this is important because nature is exceptions, and exception nature uses it to communicate with us. For example, about how the value of truth before the smallest finite is value is one order of time of this of the identity of forever nature, that nothing can be, but it is anyway. Just like the tip of your nail can't be your complete identity, but it is your complete identity anyway. We are a semi-nature relationship to the identity of the hyper-simultaneous, which is an only increasing identity of volume. Again, relative to its identity, to the extent we can discern, which comes equally with its identity of relationship to itself and with the value of it. And those three identities of volume, as value as nature / nature as value, and nature as value / value as nature. This is true conversely / hyperconversely. And this is where and how nature shows us it is making more and more forever nature. Now we have laws like that recognize this. For example, wills. In other words, so we have the nature of debate contains fact, human nature, quality aspects in nature as criminal insidiousness / hypercriminal insidiousness. I am not a lawyer. In other words, but we can delineate the delusions from the criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects in nature, the formal identities of law, non-private, and A through Z. Everyone's speaking for the law because the scientists share an identity. You speak for anything, you're speaking for the law. So they have mandated law racketeering, worse than war crimes. So Wethersfield police have wire crime acts and methods with Hartford police families, Newington police families, Rocky Hill police families, with this same house, with this Ray Cololo. And he's got the cousin named Phil Cololo. Phil Cololo, I only saw him on my street. He was driving a bicycle. He's further involved with that, with the confessions and demonstrations of a Bob Chase, with federal evidences crimes with a Phil Cololo and a principal child defender. Whiting Forensics has with them. Also, when I was a little kid, Whiting Forensics had predicate acts with them, roles, and with the state police. These are also people with Rhode Island State Police and with Vermont State Police associated with the Ray Cololo and Mike Roberts. and their teachers, their educators, and people who were in their classes, associated also as the neighbors of a Joe DeMauro and John DeMauro. And there's a Paul DeMauro who confirmed he's involved with that, with the police, with them, with wire crime, mail crimes, and various natures of drugs and medicines crimes, with their brothers, with little grammar school kids and middle school kids, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones, putting fake things and fake ties between kids who aren't even in the same class physically, never even seeing each other around the campuses, but they're in the same class, same grade, playing tricks with that stuff. So increasingly, Fox Connecticut News has people all along Hangdog Lane and Two Rod Highway in Weathersfield involved with that place in Hartford, Connecticut, and the spots next to them. There are names named Domain involved with names all along Hangdog Lane, involved like with a there's a one of the sisters was a girlfriend of his. I believe it's an Allison. I don't know her last name. Might be Mulcahy. And she was one of the ones with right before a 2006 district court case in Connecticut, in New Haven. She was involved with a Thaddeus Grabowski, who was one of the co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, outside of Fox Connecticut News. Also with people associated with this Adam Domain and Mike Domain and their family members and their neighbors, like a Mazzucato family, with the former with retired police chiefs involved with wire crimes in the same house with them. It has something to do with their roles with the corners of all along Route 3 and corners of streets like the corner of Elm Street and Route 3. They've been with foreign and domestic families planting evidences with something to do with their roles all along that street since I was a kid. They even have celebrities and sports leaders collusion /s with the news and with the people that are putting ad placements. They're putting fake motivations too with that. Follow mandated law for the news. Get me off the fake conversations with WFSB and Fox Connecticut News. And the private people, their sources too, have been predicate acts with them, including doctors, like a whole bunch of people in the Leahy family at Hartford Hospital have been using the Hartford Hospital Institute of Living, founded on their campus in 1822, with slavery still entrenched in North America and South America, and others being and has been communicated from America's founders about why and how it got entrenched in America, North America, and South America. So you guys have people that want to use what they know tactically, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people, even if it is everyone, Black pupils. It is not by accident that breaching method employed that, enforced it entrenched, but rather than understanding those entrenchments and uses of it, other things, others ourselves, were and are blamed, even right through our schools, for where and how that slavery was left entrenched. It was left entrenched for a predicate acts with facts delivery system method /s, where the plural part are the roles A through Z. Follow mandated law, please. Judge Napolitano, do what's right. Who disbelieves? Get the judge on paper, one name and sequence. There's also a Judge Smith I had to write a complaint about, who's involved with various natures of organized crime, home break-ins, and federal evidences crimes with these police switching names, forging names with other courts and judges. Let's get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let's go. There's a Brian Silver, also with the names all along Two Rod Highway, Hangdog Lane, planting evidences with judges, prosecutors, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and they're going to speak for emotions or their own or other people's. They're going to speak for reason, logic. Fake branches. Pow! And there is she. Let's go. Hurry up, follow mandated law, please.